Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. We're back with another thrilling episode of What If Naruto was the White Fire Prince. What if after abandoning his siege and returning home Iroh's fleet was caught in a storm and ended up in the elemental nations? There Iroh meets Naruto and after learning of his hard life decides to adopt him as his son and take him to the Fire Nation. If you guys enjoyed this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel after watching this video. Don't forget to shower some appreciation onto the incredible author responsible for this fanfiction. The link is conveniently waiting for you in the description down below. Before we get into it though, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Currently sitting in the council room alone, the Hokage waited for the council to show, as roughly an hour ago he had finished listening to Kakashi's report on his search for Naruto. When Kakashi finished his report, Sarutobi knew that Naruto was now out of their reach now, and could not help but be dismayed at the turn of events, knowing he had completely failed his successor and his wife. Even Kakashi was depressed at what had happened, where he had chalked it up as another one of his long list of failings, upon which he then went to the memorial stone, and try and find forgiveness from his sensei the Yondaime in failing to protect his son. Soon enough the council room filled up with the civilian council members, the clan heads, the ANBU commander, and Sarutobi's advisors, the shinobi elders. Once everyone had entered, the Hogue's advisor and former teammate Mitokado Hamura stood up and spoke up. Hokage-sama, why have you called this meeting? Do you have any news on the whereabouts of the Kyuubi Jinchuriki? Not exactly, replied the old Hokage. What do you mean by that, Hokuge-san? Asked Uratane Koharu. Although Kakashi was able to find a solid lead to Naruto and was able to track him to the port city of Gifu, we lost him there, answered Sarutobi. How? As surely the Kyuubi Jinchuriki couldn't get away from a squad of fully trained shinobis, especially one that is led by someone as skilled as Kakashi, spoke Koharu. It seems that when Naruto arrived in Gifu, an armada of warships from an unknown foreign nation was off the coast of Gifu, where some of their ships were being repaired, as they had been damaged during a storm, spoke the Sandaime. A foreign armada? Are you saying that Hai no Kuni, Fire Country, and our village are being invaded by a foreign nation, Hokage-sama? Spoke Akimichi Choza. No, the armada was seemingly blown of course to Hai no Kuni coastal shore, where they were only at the port for a short period of time to make repairs to their ships, where they then left soon after, said the old Hokage, which settled the concerns of the council as many feared another war starting. But still, Hokage-sama, why does this involve the boy? Spoke Inazukatsu. It seems that when Naruto was there, when they arrived, where he was then taken aboard the armada by the commander of the armada, a man by the name of Iroh, where Naruto then left with the armada, answered the Sandaime Hokage. As soon as Sarutobi said this, worried looks erupted among the clan heads and the elder shinobis, as this was the worst possible scenario, as the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, the strongest of all the Bijus, was now in the hands of a foreign power. Then good riddance to it, spoke a civilian council member named Chijin. With that thing gone, Konoha will be that much better off and safer. Be silent, Chijin, you fool, hissed Koharu angrily, as she was in no mood to hear the stupid rants of fools that shouldn't be on the council to begin with. Surprised by Koharu's harshness, Chijin turned to her. But Koharu-san, why do you even care? You never shown any concern for it. As with it gone, we no longer have to fear the Kyuubi destroying our village, where it will become that nation's problem. Chijin, you idiot, haven't you fools realized already how vital the Kyuubi's power is to Konoha's strength? Spoke Hamura angrily. What do you mean by that? Asked another civilian council member named Oroka. When the Shodaime Hokage defeated Madara, he was able to gain control of the Kyuubi from Madara, after which the Shodaime Hokage's wife Mito-sama sealed the Kyuubi in herself, making her the first Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. Upon which the Shodaime Hokage gave the Nanabai no Kabutomushi, seven-tailed horn beetle, to Takagakure, hidden waterfall, and the other 7 bijus to the other 4 great shinobi villages aid to try and maintain balance between the nations. Without the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, our village's strength will be severely reduced, not to mention the fact that this nation could decide to one day use the Kyuubi's power against us. Spoke Koharu harshly. Even though the civilian council members were shocked at the fact that the Shodaime Hokage's wife was a Jinchuriki, they quickly realized what kind of trouble this put their village. Then we must find him and bring him back, spoke a third civilian council member named Tainusha. It's a bit late for that now, as this nation already has Naruto. Besides, if fools like you had listened and respected the Yondaime Hokage's dying wish, his son would never have left the village," cried the old Hokage angrily, as he no longer cared about hiding Naruto's heritage as there was no point with him gone. Upon hearing this, everyone minus the Hokage's advisors were shocked at this revelation. "Son," spoke Chijin in shock. "Yes, Naruto is the Yondaime Haku's son," replied Sarutobi. "It's not possible. I refuse to believe that. That demon is the Yondaime Hokage's son. There's no wa dash," cried Oroka before he shut up when the Sandaime let loose a powerful burst of killing intent. "Be silent!" roared out the old Hokage in a snarl-like voice, as he glared at Oroka, who felt like he had been killed over hundreds times by how strong the killing intent was. The other council members along with the Hokage's advisors were of course shocked at the Sandaime acting like this. Even Danzo was surprised as he hadn't seen his former friend like this in a long time, where it reminded him of what Sarutobi was once like before he became soft in Danzo's eyes. "Naruto is Minato's son and is no more a demon than anyone else here, as he is just as much a human being as Mito-sama and his mother Kushina was, and if anyone here so much as call Naruto a demon or monster again, they will answer to me," spoke the furious old Hokage as he slammed his fist down on the arm of his chair angrily and glared at Oroka, along with the other civilian members, as he blamed the ignorant fools and others like them in the village for Naruto running away. At this, the civilian council members became very afraid as they had never seen Sarutobi like this. But soon enough the old Hokage calmed down, although gave the civilian members a warning glare. Once Sarutobi calmed down a bit, some decided to spoke up. "Hokage-sama, if I may, why weren't we informed that Mito-sama and Kushina were also Jinchurikis for the Kyuubi?" As she had been friends with Kushina in their youth, yet had no idea that she was the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi, as it was commonly believed that Naruto was the first Kyuubi Jinchuriki. The reason was because it was for Mito-sama's and Kushina's safety, for fear of the other villages assassinating either to them to weaken Konoha or to capture them and use them against Konoha. Also, it was to make sure that we would have a hidden ace in the hole in case the village was attacked, where our enemies wouldn't know who held the Kyuubi. Not only that, it was also to allow both of them to have happy normal lives and be accepted by the village, where they wouldn't have to suffer the harshness that other Jinchurikis in other villages went through. But sadly that didn't work for Naruto, as it became common knowledge that Naruto held the Kyuubi in him, and due to the attack, many lives were lost and people used Naruto as a scapegoat to focus their anger on. Replied Sarutobi sadly. "Do we know which country has taken Uzumaki?" spoke Danzo, hoping to know where to send his routines and retrieve Naruto. "A foreign nation called Fire Nation," replied the Sandaime, where he got many strange looks from the other council members, but he assured them that it was the country's name. "Then do we know where this Fire Nation is?" asked Koharu. "No, as all the people that Kakashi and his team interviewed knew was it was a place far off in the Southeast Sea," answered Sarutobi. "Do you think they know about the Kyuubi?" spoke Danzo, as he saw no other reason why the commander of an armada would simply take in a boy off the street unless he had some value. "I don't know, as it is unlikely given how the armada was just passing by, but even still it can't be ruled out," replied Sarutobi. "Then we must send out teams and find this Fire Nation and get him back," spoke Tainusha. "Even if we do find this Fire Nation, how do you expect us to get Naruto back? As chances are this Fire Nation will not give him up, especially if they somehow know that Naruto has the Kyuubi." Since given the description and size of the ships of this nation, the Fire Nation is more advanced militarily and technology, as the vast size of the armada means they also have an equally vast army, where if we were to enter their country without permission it would cause an international incident, and could be seen as an act of war on our part, and by just judging by the armada that was near Gifu alone, it would be a war that we would most likely lose. Especially if the Fire Daimyo doesn't support us, where he would most likely wouldn't, said Sarutobi. "But why wouldn't he? They stole our Jinchuriki," spoke Chijin. At this, Sarutobi could only scoff at the fact how Chijin, who was so pleased at Naruto gone mere moments ago, was now insisting that they risk a war to bring him back, when informed that without Naruto they would be in trouble, and with the fact that he was the Yondaime Hokage's son. "The Fire Daimyo would never support us if he found out how Naruto was treated here, which he would if the Fire Nation informed him of it, not to mention Naruto left with them willingly and was not forced to go. Hence the Fire Daimyo would not support us and most likely leave us to fend for ourselves," answered Sarutobi. Upon hearing this, the council knew there was nothing they could do, as Naruto was beyond their reach now. At the same time, Danzo secretly made plans in his mind to send out his root teams to search out and gather as much information about the Fire Nation as possible. Soon after, Sarutobi called the council meeting to an end, where he knew in the next few days there would be a level of uproar, anxiety, fear and confusion of the likes that Konoha has not seen since when the Uchiha clan were massacred last year by the clan's prodigy Uchiha Itachi. He also knew that once the truth of Naruto heritage also came out, there would also be a great division in the village, mainly between the younger and older generation. As the Sandaime left the room, he could not help but hope that wherever Naruto was, he was happier and safer than he was in Konoha. With Naruto currently standing on the catwalk of the Empire-class battleship, Naruto was looking out into the distant coast of the Fire Nation. Naruto was kind of nervous and excited at the same time at seeing the Fire Nation and at seeing his new home, as well as meeting his new family. For the past several weeks, his new adopted father Iroh had been teaching him as much as he could about the Fire Nation, such as history, culture, traditions and food. Naruto also had to learn to write again and how to show proper respect to other people, as Iroh had explained him how important it was, since if you disrespect someone there would be harsh consequences. The learning was a bit dull for Naruto, but fortunately though, Iroh was a patient and good teacher and helped keep Naruto interested. Also during his free time, Naruto would play with either Iroh or some of the crew members, or even play a few harmless pranks which often helped to brighten up the ship up and help lighten the serious moods that the crew would normally have. Iroh also began to teach Naruto how to play Pai Sho. At first Naruto showed no interest in it, but Iroh made it interesting by placing little bets like if Naruto won he gets some candy, or dare Iroh to do something funny. Naruto of course wasn't very good at first, but was slowly getting better at it, and growing in confidence in it as well, where Iroh would sometimes let Naruto win, so to keep Naruto interested. Currently Naruto was wearing a tradition clothing worn by a child in the Fire Nation, one, which had been given to Naruto to wear by Iroh, after he had some of the crew make some new clothing for Naruto to wear. As Naruto gazed at the mainland of the Fire Nation, which was becoming bigger as they grew closer, he suddenly felt a hand land on his shoulder. When he looked up he saw his new adopted father smiling kindly and warmly at him. "So Naruto, are you excited at finally getting to see the Fire Nation?" asked Iroh. "Yeah, I am, as well as kind of nervous," replied Naruto. "Oh, and why is that?" "Well, what if they don't like me, and what if they hate me like they did back at Konoha, what if?" said Naruto worriedly, before he was stopped by Iroh, who held up his hand telling him to stop. "There's no need to worry, Naruto, as you my son now, and the people will not harm you, and I certain you will be happy here and make many friends there. I even have a young nephew there named Zuko who just 2 years older than you, as well as a young niece named Azula who is the same age as you. Hence I'm certain you three will get along fine and their friends can become your friends," said Iroh, reassuring Naruto of his fears. At this Naruto calmed down a bit, where he was looking forward to meeting his new cousins and hoped they would get along, as he didn't really have any friends back at Konoha. After a while the Iroh's command ship docked at the port near the Fire Nation capital, whereas Iroh, Naruto and his party disembarked the ship. They were met by members of the royal procession. "General Iroh, sir, we have been ordered by Fire Lord Ozai to escort you to the palace, as he wishes to speak to you," spoke an Imperial Firebender. "Fire Lord Ozai?" spoke Iroh in surprise, where the Imperial Firebender just nodded in confirmation. "What happened to my father then?" "Sadly, your father Fire Lord Azulin passed away several weeks ago during the night, but before he died he declared Fire Lord Ozai to succeed him," replied the Imperial Firebender. At this Iroh was slightly saddened, for although he and his father were never close nor did they really talk much, that didn't involve military successes and defeats, as Azulin wasn't much of a father, but even still he was still his father, hence a small part of him did care for him. "Very well then, lead the way," spoke Iroh, where he then took Naruto by the hand and led him to a palanquin that was waiting for them and take them to the palace. When the Imperial Firebenders saw Naruto, the captain was about to ask, who was Naruto? But Iroh simply replied that Naruto was with him, where the captain just nodded, after which Iroh and Naruto got in the palanquin. Upon which the servants then lifted them up and the guards surrounded them and then carried them to the palace. As they rode on the palanquin, Naruto looked out the curtains to see the harbor city and watched the people and look at the different things he saw in the city. He found it fun to be allowed to ride the palanquin, as he had seen important lords, who came into Konoha ride on them several times, and this was his first time riding on one. Although he still much preferred walking, as it was quicker, and in his opinion riding on the palanquin made him feel and look lazy. After about 2 hours of traveling on the palanquin and through the harbor city, Royal Plaza the zag path that lead up to the capital crater and through the Royal Caldera city itself, they finally arrived at the palace. When Naruto finally saw the palace, he could not but be in awe of it, as he had never seen anything so big in his entire life. The palace itself was easily 3 or 4 times the size of the Hokage mansion, if not more. Once the palanquin was placed on the ground, both Naruto and Iroh disembarked, where they were then escorted by the royal procession into the palace, where they walked through the large courtyard and through the large hallways of the palace. Finally, though, they arrived at giant double doors that lead to the throne room of the Fire Lord, where 2 other Imperial Firebenders stood on either side of it, guarding the entrance to the throne room. Where when they saw Iroh, Naruto, and the royal procession coming, they began to push the doors open, where Iroh and Naruto entered the throne room, upon which the doors then closed, while the royal procession stayed outside. The throne room was extremely large, where it had many black pillars with elaborate gold bases that supported the roof, and had black tiled floors. As Naruto looked ahead, he saw Fire Lord Ozai sitting on an ornate covered throne on a higher platform, which was surrounded by fire and made him extremely intimidating, as well as made Naruto slightly scared of him. He could also see a bas-relief image of a dragon breathing fire behind the Fire Lord. As they walked up, Naruto could feel the Fire Lord's eye on him, but kept his eyes low as his adopted father Iroh had explained to Naruto. He was not to stare up at the Fire Lord unless spoken to and was to remain quiet at all times, which Naruto didn't find hard as he was kind scared of him right now. Once Naruto and Iroh sat down on their knees in front of Fire Lord Ozai, the Fire Lord suddenly spoke up. "So General Iroh, you have returned from your disgraceful failure at Ba Sing Se," said Ozai with a slight sneer, as he mocked his brother over his defeat. At this, Naruto grew angry at the Fire Lord's insult to his adopted father, but he remained calm and did nothing, as Iroh told him to expect such remarks from people, where if he were to react to them he could get into trouble for it. Iroh, of course, was not affected in the least by his younger brother's remark on his defeat at Ba Sing Se. "Yes, I have, Fire Lord," replied Iroh respectfully while holding a neutral expression. Ozai, of course, frowned slightly at seeing how his elder brother remained unaffected by his remark, but then decided to continue on. "I had expected you to return sooner with your forces. What was it that delayed you so? Unfortunately, my fleet had been caught in a large storm, where we were blown off course and many of my ships had suffered damage, and we had to make port in a foreign land to make repairs that took some time," answered Iroh. Upon hearing this, Ozai became interested, where he had Iroh tell him about it. As he listened to Iroh's story, he became interested in the far-off foreign land that he had never heard of. He even became slightly insulted that there was a country which had a similar name as his own, as in his own mind there could only be one fire nation. After which he then began to question Iroh more on the elemental continent. He also became interested in the shinobi, along with their jutsu, where they could use more than one element along with other things. He also became very interested in their bloodlines and their abilities. After an hour or so of questioning, Ozai then ordered Iroh to write up a full report on everything he learned about the elemental continent and to hand it in by next week, after which he then turned and looked at Naruto with a narrowing gaze. "So who is this? Is he some servant that you brought from this elemental continent?" asked Ozai. "This is Naruto, and no, he not my servant. I have adopted him as my son," replied Iroh and placed his hand gently on Naruto's shoulder, who then looked up at the Fire Lord and then bowed down respectfully to Ozai, just as his adopted father had told him to do earlier. "It is an honor to meet you, Fire Lord Ozai." At this, Ozai narrowed his eyes and then turned to Iroh. "Did you honestly think that if you adopted this lowly commoner for a foreign land that you'd be allowed to still become Fire Lord when your real son was killed?" spoke Ozai. Naruto lowered his head as if in shame at how he wasn't Iroh actually son and never could be. But Iroh, of course, put a reassuring hand on Naruto's shoulder and then looked up at his brother. "I had no such thought when I adopted Naruto, as I adopted Naruto because I generally care for him greatly," replied Iroh, which caused Naruto to smile, as he was happy beyond words to hear how Iroh cared for him. At this, Ozai scoffed. "Regardless of your feelings towards this vagabond, I will not allow you to dirty our noble family by allowing some trash that you picked off the street enter our family. Upon hearing this, Naruto began to become fearful at what would happen, where his fears of being scorned and hated in the Fire Nation, just as he was in Konoha, began to resurface. Fortunately though, Iroh would not let this happen. "There is no law that prevents me from adopting Naruto, Ozai," spoke Iroh, and referring his brother by his name instead of calling him Fire Lord. At his, Ozai started to grow angry at his brother's defiance, where his anger became apparent, as the flames around him began to grow bigger and become fiercer. "I'm the Fire Lord and my word is law," spoke Ozai angrily, where Naruto began to become fearful at what would happen next, although held his nerve and didn't move. Iroh then narrowed his eyes and then spoke calmly. "If you allow me to adopt Naruto as a member of our family and as my son, then I will not challenge you for the throne." At this, Ozai stood up in fury, where the flames around him exploded with equally fury. "You would dare challenge me, your Fire Lord, and my claim to the throne along with our father's will?" shouted Ozai. At seeing this, Naruto became more afraid at what Ozai would do, but Iroh placed a reassuring hand on Naruto, while still staring at Ozai, telling him that everything would be okay. This of course reassured Naruto, where he remained still, after which Iroh then spoke calmly with a calm expression. "It is my right, as I was originally to be next in line." Ozai stared angrily at his older brother while Iroh stared calmly yet intensely at Ozai, as the two brothers stared at one another in a battle of wills. Ozai began to think over his options. He knew that Iroh was well in his rights to challenge him in Agni Kai for the throne, especially since he was the elder brother. He also knew that in terms of firebending skills, Iroh was the only one that could challenge him and possibly defeat him, not to mention the fact that Iroh had an entire army and armada loyal to him that was just outside the capital. Hence, if he wanted to, Iroh could simply have his army attack the capital and take the throne by force, as the rest of the Fire Nation's armies were fighting in the Earth Kingdom, and the forces stationed at the capital that were loyal to him, Ozai, would stand no chance in defeating Iroh's veteran and experienced army. There was also the fact that despite his disgrace in failing to take Ba Sing Se, Iroh was still a very popular general among the army. Hence it would be likely that many soldiers stationed at the capital would side and support Iroh if he wished to take the throne by force. But if he let Iroh adopt Naruto, Iroh would not challenge him for the throne, thereby his position as Fire Lord would be secure, and all it would take would be to let Iroh adopt Naruto into their family. "Very well, you can have him," scoffed Ozai as he calmed down and sat back down, as allowing a commoner into the royal family was a small price to pay to secure his throne. He also believed that he could always use Naruto as leverage against his brother, should Iroh ever cause him trouble. At hearing Ozai's response, Iroh smiled, where Naruto remained quiet and kept his head down, so that his face could not be seen. Once the matter over adopting Naruto was settled, Ozai then dismissed Iroh, not even looking at Naruto. Once they left the room, Iroh dismissed the royal procession, telling them that they weren't needed, after which when they were gone, Iroh then knelt down next to Naruto, as he could tell that there was something wrong with his newly adopted son. "Naruto, what's wrong? You're not yourself." At this, Naruto kept his down. "If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have to give up being Fire Lord," spoke Naruto, believing that it was his fault that his adopted father wasn't Fire Lord. Upon hearing his, Iroh lifted up Naruto's chin so that he could see Naruto's face. "Naruto, please listen to me. I do not care about being Fire Lord, and I never have. To me, having you with me and being able to adopt you as my son is worth far more to me than ever being Fire Lord." "Really, you're not angry at me?" asked Naruto. "Really," replied Iroh with a smile, which caused Naruto to smile as well, where he then hugged Iron, who did so in return, after which he then asked Naruto if he wanted him to show him around the palace, which Naruto agreed to. After several hours of walking and touring around the palace, Naruto and Iroh entered the large open garden, where they then came across Iroh's young nephew Zuko, who was alone at the garden pond feeding turtle ducks. Naruto of course found them very strange. Even though he had read about them in the books that Iroh had given him to read, it was still strange to see them. Iroh then called out to his nephew, who turned and saw him and Naruto coming towards him. Zuko in turn called out to his uncle, where he went over to him and greeted him and then hugged him, which Iroh did so in return. Once Zuko let go of his uncle, he then turned and looked at Naruto with a curious expression before he then turned back to his uncle. "Uncle, who is he?" At this, Iroh then knelt down to Zuko. "Zuko, I would like you to meet Naruto, who I've adopted and will be your cousin from now on." This of course surprised Zuko, Before he held out his hand in friendship towards Naruto, and said hello, which Naruto replied hesitantly and took Zuko's hands. Seeing this of course brought a smile to Iroh's face, after which he then asked Zuko where his mother was, as he wanted to introduce Naruto to her. When Iroh asked this, a distraught look appeared on Zuko's face, where he then told Iroh that he didn't know, and explained how she disappeared on the same night that Fire Lord Azulin suddenly died. Upon hearing this, Iroh frowned as he knew how much Ursa cared for both Zuko and Azula and would never willingly leave them and would only do so if she was forced to, hence he knew that something was wrong. Since given the facts at what happened, at how she disappeared on the very night that his father passed away and how Zai was then declared the next Fire Lord, without waiting for his return, it which Iron found all too coincidental and decided to investigate into the matter later on. For the next hour or so Iroh, Naruto and Zuko talked about Iroh's events in the war, after which Naruto then talked about the elemental continent, or to be more precise Konoha, where he told Zuko at how different yet similar it was from the other 4 great nations. Naruto in turn also asked the different things about Fire Nation, especially the animals, as he found the animals here funny looking, but interesting as they looked like a cross between 2 separate animals from where he comes from. Like the turtle ducks looked like a cross between an ordinary duck and a turtle. Soon enough the 3 were joined by Azula, Mai and Ty Lee, who had seen Iroh and Naruto sitting and talking with Zuko and were curious as to who Naruto was and what the 3 of them were talking about. "Welcome back, Uncle," greeted Azula as Mai and Ty Lee came up to Iroh and the others. Azula, my girl, it's so good to see you," greeted Iroh, as he turned to his young niece. "Look how much you have grown. You'll certainly become a lovely girl when you get older," commented Iroh. After which he then noticed Mai and Ty Lee. And these must also your friends Mai and Ty Lee who have heard about." "Nice to meet you," said Ty Lee. "Hello," replied Mai. "Uncle, who is this?" questioned Azula as she looked at Naruto. This is Naruto, who is from a foreign land called the Elemental Continent, which is a land far from here. And I have adopted him, and he will be your new cousin. Funny enough as well, Naruto's home country is called Fire Country," replied Iroh. This of course caused Azula to raise her eyebrow in curiosity. But before she could ask him, Ty Lee interrupted her. "That is so cool." Mai herself also found this interesting, as it was clear that Naruto did come from a far-off land. She had never seen anyone with blonde hair before. "Did father approve of this?" asked Azula, as she found it strange that her father would allow a foreign commoner to be a member of their family. "Yes, he did," replied Iroh, which surprised Azula, where she then planned on asking her father later on why he allowed this. "What are those markings on your face?" asked Mai, as she looked more closely at Naruto's face as saw Naruto whisker-shaped birthmarks and found them strange. "They're birthmarks, why?" replied Naruto. "Oh, they're just funny looking, that's all," replied Mai. "I think they make you look cute," said Ty Lee with a smile, which caused Naruto to blush as none had ever said he looked cute in all his life. For the next few minutes Iroh talked about the Elemental Continent, and how they had several kinds of fighting arts, as they did here. But unlike in the 4 great nations, they could do more than one elements, and were created out of chakra. As the shinobis of the Elemental Continent could not bend the actually elements like benders could, not to mention there was a limit to what they could do, as if they ran out of chakra they could no longer do jutsu. Upon hearing this, Azula raised her eyebrow in interest at this, and turned to look at Naruto. "And can you do any of these techniques that Uncle mentioned?" "Only the basics, which are taught at the academy," replied Naruto. "I can't do any of the elemental ninjutsus that father said." Azula and Zuko of course found it strange that a boy they had just met, and who had no blood ties to their uncle and calling him father, but they got over it, where Zuko then asked what kind of jutsu he could do. Naruto turned to his adopted father, who nodded telling him that he could, after which Naruto then stood up on, where he used a henge transformation, and made himself into an exact copy of his adopted father Iroh. When the kids saw Naruto turn into an exact replica of Iroh, they were all slack-jawed as they had never seen anything like this before. "Wow, that is so cool!" cried Ty Lee with excitement. Even Azula, Mai and Zuko were surprised and impressed by that henge. After which Naruto then changed back to normal, where Zuko spoke up. "Can you change just into people, or can you change into animals as well?" "I can change into a lot of things, like people, animals or objects, although it's tricky to keep up under long periods of time and I have to constantly release a flow of chakra while mentally maintaining the form," answered Naruto. as he liked the attention he got from Zuko and the others, as most people would ignore him, while only paying attention to him to laugh at him when he screwed up or when they were going to attack him. "What else can you do?" asked Ty Lee excitedly. "Well, I can also do this," replied Naruto, where he used the Kawarimi no Jutsu, body replacement technique, and replaced himself with the stone statue of a dragon nearby. This of course shocked the children, although Iroh remained calm as Naruto had shown him all this earlier on their way to the Fire Nation, and he had read all this on some of the scrolls and books about shinobis that he bought in the Elemental Continent. When Naruto disappeared and a stone dragon appeared in the spot he was a moment ago, naturally the kids were once again in shock. "Where did he go?" asked a shocked Ty Lee as she and the other looked around for Naruto. "Looking for me?" said Naruto as he appeared from out of the tree trunk, as he used Kakuremino no Jutsu, Cloak of Invisibility technique, to blend in with the tree trunk and hide from everyone when they were distracted when he replaced himself with the stone dragon statue. "Wow, that's amazing!" cried Ty Lee, where Zuko and Mai nodded in agreement. Even Azula had to admit that it was impressive, as she had never seen anything like those techniques before. "Pretty impressive, but is that all they teach you there?" asked Azula, as she wanted to know as much as possible about Naruto's abilities, along with learn what the people of his land were capable of. "That's all the jutsu I know, although we're also trained in hand-to-hand fighting, along with throwing weapons and how to fight with them in close quarters as well as in speed and agility," answered Naruto. Upon hearing this, Mai and Ty Lee became interested, while Azula decided to ask something she wanted to know. "Is it possible for us to learn the skills that you have?" Naruto of course expected a question like this, although he hadn't expected from Azula, as he thought her father, Fire Lord Ozai, or some high-ranking general like his adopted father Iroh would ask it. "No, you can't," replied Naruto, which caused Azula to narrow her eyes and frown. "And why not?" asked an annoyed Azula, as she believed that if a commoner like Naruto could do such things that she couldn't do, as she knew that even these basic abilities that Naruto showed would be highly useful in battle along with gathering information and assassination. "It because for some reason only people from my land can use them," replied Naruto. "And how can you be so sure of that?" asked Azula, not believing Naruto. "Because Dad asked me to teach him how to use them as well as some of the crew on the ship we were on, but none of them could do it," answered Naruto. "I'm afraid it is true, Azula," replied Iroh, although in reality this was all a lie that he told Naruto to tell anyone that asked if he could teach them his techniques. As Iroh suspected that considering how similar the bending arts and the shinobi arts were with one another, it would be possible for other people outside Naruto's homeland to learn it. But Iroh wanted to make sure that his brother and the military officials in the Fire Nation military to believe that it wasn't possible, as he knew that if Naruto taught these basic skills, then Ozai would take Naruto from him and force him to teach others, not to mention he knew that his brother would then use these skills to further the war in conquering the other nations. Not to mention he would send forces to the Elemental Continent to conquer it, so to learn more of the shinobi arts and make himself more powerful. This was also why he planned to make sure not to tell Ozai everything in his written report and lie in it in many parts of it, where he would make it seem that he, Iroh, did not know too much about the shinobi world, which was sort of turn, while at the same time making shinobis seem powerful enough that it would be too much trouble to try and conquer them, while also making them seem as well that they were no threat to the Fire Nation. But even still, Iroh knew that it would be only a matter of time before his brother would eventually turn his gaze to the Elemental Continent, as he knew his brother wouldn't be satisfied unless the whole world was under his control. But it would at least by some time, where at some point something could be done to stop this pointless war and prevent another one from breaking out. After hearing that it was unlikely that she could do any ninjutsu, Azula became annoyed as she didn't like being upstaged by anyone, hence she decided to go off practice her fire bending skills, where Mai and Ty Lee followed after her. But not before Ty Lee and Mai said goodbye to Iroh, Zuko and Naruto, although when Mai said goodbye to Zuko she blushed a little, which Iroh noticed and smiled, as he also noticed Zuko blush a little as well when she said goodbye to him. "Ah, to be young again," chuckled Iroh, which of course confused Naruto as he didn't get what his adopted father was talking about, as he had seen Zuko and Mai blush a little when they said goodbye to one another but didn't understand why. "What do you mean by that, Dad? Why were Mai and Zuko blushing when they said goodbye to one another?" asked Naruto. "Ah, you understand later on, Naruto, with you get a little older and met a special young lady yourself," replied Iroh with a knowing smile. Huh! Said Naruto, not getting his adopted father at all, but decided to let it go. After which Iroh suggested that since it was such a nice day that the three of them leave the palace and go out for a walk into the Caldera city to show Naruto more of the Fire Nation, as well as have a nice meal outside the palace. Both boys of course agreed, as Naruto was eager to see more of his new home, the Fire Nation, and more importantly hopefully find a place where they make ramen, if they hopefully had it. Zuko on the other hand thought it would be interesting, as he was interested in learning more about Naruto and the land he came from, and although he wouldn't admit it, he did enjoy his uncle's and Naruto's company, as other than his mother he didn't really have any friends to hang around with or someone to talk to. Once it was agreed, the three sent off together, when Naruto, the former pariah of the Konoha, began his new life as a prince of the Fire Nation. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe and comment down below and turn on the bell notification. And also check out other videos that I have created and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.